As the name suggests, this shop is enormous. Okay, kidding. Actually, Anne Frank would probably cringe at the size of this place. You want specs? I'll give you specs. Interior dimensions is 7 feet wide by 12 feet long. It's approximately 84 square feet. Or, if you prefer the European equivalency, that's about 7.8 square meters, or 1,300 scones, or a Volkswagen Tiguan. I say all that to just drive home how tiny this shop really is. Alright, but enough chit chat. Let's get in there and let's check it out. We're now in the front door. This is the front door here. It's actually the only door. But as soon as you come in to the left, this is where the bandsaw lives. This is my 14-inch jet bandsaw. I can't tell you when it was made. I don't know for sure. All I know is that it runs and it's strong enough to run a 3/4 inch wide blade, which is great. If you watched any of my videos in the past, you know that I rely on the bandsaw. I use it for batching out, roughing out all my parts for coasters, for cutting boards, quick rips, anything like that. I love this thing. Also, I sometimes hate it because it gets out of alignment and the dust collection is absolutely atrocious. All right, we're now on the other side of the door, which is where my planer lives. Now this is the 13-inch DeWalt planer, model DW735X. I think the X means that it came with an extra set of knives and the in-feed and out-feed trays, which honestly, why would that be an optional extra? I mean, that should just come with it regardless. Anyway, this thing's great. It's pretty much idiot-proof. But the one thing you need to know about this planer is that it is very... Wow! Now, as we come down the wall from the planer, we come to this. This is my 6-inch cabinet-style joiner by Jet. Its model is JJ-6CSX. There you go. Again, I have no idea when this was made. Probably prior to the year 2000. Alright, now, I have a love-hate relationship with this machine. So let's just go over the good and the bad. The good is the motor is plenty strong. I've never been able to bog it down. Also, when it's dialed in, this thing cuts clean, which is really impressive for a straight knife joiner. So I can't really complain about that. Now, the bad. This thing is really hard to align the knives. I spent countless hours trying to find top dead center on the cutter head to get the knives set correctly, and I still don't have it 100% dialed in. Like, it's really frustrating. But my biggest complaint about this joiner is the dust collection. So the chute in here just clogs up all the time. And I'm finding myself, in fact, I'm going to bring you in here. I'm finding myself having to remove this dust port here all the time and unplug the machine and reach my hand up in there and break it loose. Because if I don't do that, it'll clog up, and before you know it, it's spewing dust out of the cutter head area. So we got a whole bunch of that random storage here. And then right here, sort of beside it, is my 1 horsepower Jet dust collector. This was a new addition. When did I get this? Because it's the beginning of this year. And it has definitely helped out a lot because I was doing a lot of dust cleanup prior to this because shop vacs just don't cut it. All right, now as you can see, I've got a hose going out and then a hose coming in, and actually technically this is a hose going out and then a hose coming in, because dust is actually going out the wall to a little lean-to structure where there's a cyclone trash can collector in there. So all the large chips that come off of my machines pretty much drop down into the galvanized trash can, and then the smaller dust particles come back through into the dust collector and down into the collection bag there. That saves me the trouble of having to empty this all the time, where that 40-gallon trash can in the back will take a little bit longer to fill up. All right, we're gonna stay handheld for a bit longer here because this is where it gets really tight. So we've got our clamp storage here, some miscellaneous tools. We got a level there, lumber, and I got a straight edge, and then we got a toolbox down here, and then just random scraps. This is what I have to deal with. I mean, this is how I work, how I manage things. I got tools hanging on the roof rafters. But here is what takes up the middle of the shop. This is my heavily modified rigid table saw. The model is R4520. It's the most recent model, which replaced the previous cast iron contractor saw, the R4512. Now, I said modified. So right from the get-go, I took the stamped steel wings that came with the saw and tossed them because they were annoying. And I replaced them with these cast iron wings from SawStop. And let me tell you, that was an adventure because, believe it or not, the holes don't line up. So I did a lot of tapping and drilling and doing some fun bolting here and there. Anyway, it's on there. All right, now butted up against the table saw is my combination workbench outfeed table, and this was custom built to fit right up against it, and be roughly 1/8 of an inch lower to allow for material to drop safely down instead of binding on the blade. It's all made out of dimensional lumber. I didn't even use southern yellow pine like they, are typically telling you to do. That stuff is just a little bit more expensive these days. Base is painted black. I used what is that stuff? Halcyon amber marine grade finish. So it's all dimensional lumber except for the end caps, which are cherry, obviously, and the jaws of the vise are cherry as well. So this is a pony vise, 7-inch, I think is the capacity. I could be wrong. And then I designed this workbench to have 2 levels of storage underneath it because I always want to have certain tools close by that typically will take up a lot of space. And these things are large. Like this circular saw is kind of big because it's a rear handle job. And then my sander I want to keep in the sustainer at all times because I don't want that to get messed up because it's an investment. And then I have my main router in its sustainer down there. So it works out really well. I mean, it keeps things more or less out of the way. All right, let's talk about workflow. So typically I start out here in the backyard. And what I got is, actually I'm going to flip you around. What I've got is, I've got this outdoor workbench that I built a while back that lives out here in the backyard. And I'll bring material in, I'll lay it across this, and I'll start to break material down with my circular saw or a jigsaw. And then once I get it down into the rough length that I'm looking for, that's when I bring it here into the shop. Then I feed it typically a couple passes over the joiner to get a clean edge, and then I'll take that to the bandsaw And I'll set the fence, run that clean edge up against the fence, and get my rough width. And then I'll do a song and dance between the planer and then the joiner and then back to the planer until I have 3 good clean sides. And then that's when I bring it over to the table saw and clean up that final side with that. That's worked for me pretty well. I mean, I really don't have a choice in the matter. I can't bring in 8-foot boards or 10-foot boards and try and break them down in here. And I can't run 10-foot boards across this joiner. I can move this joiner out away from the wall, and I can run maybe a 4-foot board across it without bumping into something, but that's really the max. That's why I'm typically going ahead and breaking things down to smaller lengths so that I can individually joint those pieces as needed. So anyway, this is my tiny shop. I hope you've enjoyed this tour, but I do have one more thing to say. I'm moving the shop to a new space. So here actually, yes, this is the new home of John's Tiny Wood Shop. This is a 19 by 25 foot shop space with electricity and lights. All right, let's move in here.